Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to J Raids and welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. And in today's video, I want to take things a little bit more chill and we're going to do something fun here today. We're going to dive into my account and I'm going to show you guys some cool things that I've built up over the years as a Raid Shadow Legends player. And I was just thinking to myself, I think it'd be kind of cool to do like a yearly sort of check-in, sort of like a time capsule or a stamp in time, if you will, on like a maybe like a yearly basis. And so, I'm relatively new to content creation, at least in the Raid Shadow Legends scene. And I thought it'd be fun just to kind of walk you guys through my account, how long I've been playing, just how I think about the game, and just look about some of the accomplishments I've set so far, and talk about kind of the goals that I want to set, and hopefully see my account go in the next year or so. And then in a year from now, let's try to come back to this topic and we can kind of see the differences and how we've gone. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of do that. If you guys are a fan of RuneScape, the legendary ball knowledge, if you guys are familiar with doing like a bank video kind of thing. So I wanted to replicate something like that, talk you guys through my account, and we can do a little bit of a time capsule and see where we end up in a year if I am still making content at that moment. But yeah, let's dive into things here. The first thing I want to start off is just a brief history, a little bit of a history lesson. And this is mm, this is starting off with when I started. So this is actually kind of interesting. Now, I don't know how you guys got introduced into Raid Shadow Legends, but one of my friends at the time, who was also another streamer, did a Raid Shadow Legends sponsorship. And of course, the sponsorship was to hit a certain amount of like new users, like I don't know, it was like 75 new users to complete the tutorial, and he gets some money and like a bonus for accomplishing that goal. And so I thought I'd help him out, create a new account on Raid Shadow Legends. All I do is complete the tutorial, but it's kind of history from there. And I became pretty ingrained into the game, and it became something really fun for me. And so I think it's hard for me to pinpoint exactly when I started. I'm not exactly sure where I can find this information, but I know I started in 2021. That's what it says on here in my badges. So I started in 2021. In my recollection, I think I started near the end of the year. Fusion calendar is kind of how I've been like keeping track of this. And I'm just thinking about what seems the most familiar to me. So I started in 2021, and I think somewhere really late because Tatura sounds like about right for what I vaguely recall in terms of fusions. So I started about then, and then I did take a break, and of course I'm going to refer again just to fusions as a fun little way to keep track of time. But I started, I think, late 2021. My first fusion that I ended up actually completing was Helicath in June of 2022. So it took me about, I guess, 6 months or so, give or take, in order for me to get my account to a point where I could actually do the first fusion. And I think at that point I was a complete noob, right? I had no friends or clanmates or really anybody who was really invested in the game. And I was kind of playing just by myself, watching videos casually, or maybe not casually. I don't know. I was like really into it at that time. But I completed Helicath as my first fusion in the game, which was back in June of 2022. And then I took a break from about what I believe was somewhere around August of 2023. So I finished the Emic fusion. That was the last fusion I finished before I took my break. And then I took a break for about a year, really just not touching the game at all. So I missed I missed Islin, Bambus, Timid, Ugir, or whatever, Blizzard. But then what I think is definitely a little bit unfortunate is at the start of 24 and before I really came back into the game, I missed out on a whole nother string of fantastic fusions, such as Ankara, Armans, Ustrid, and Wixwell. I think I came back at the very tail end of the Wixwell fusion. So let's say like May of 2024. So I basically took a break between August of 23 to around May/June of 24. And then I've been playing pretty consistently ever since then. So give or take, I've been playing Raid for about 3.5 years overall. Just a rough little estimate. And I'm happy to say that, although maybe you guys can't or can tell, I've actually been playing as a free to play, essentially for the most part. Now, I will admit, just for any of those actual purists out there, I believe when I was just starting the game, I might have bought, the two sacreds for $15 deal, like the level 7 one, and I bought four sacreds for like $30 because I was like, wow, that is a fantastic deal. And I think those sacreds helped me to actually complete the Helicath fusion, although at this point it's ancient history. And then I think that was like really pretty much the only purchases I've ever made in the game. So I'd love to call myself a free to play, and if anyone asks, that's what I tell them. But yeah, I spent like $40 at the beginning of my account, and that set me up, luckily, for the rest of the game because I was able to then 2-key Ultra Nightmare with a Helicath team. But that's a little bit of history and a little bit about my journey when in Raid Shadow Legends. And so, yes, I do like to say that I am a free to play player, and I'm honestly pretty proud of how far that I think my account's progressed as a free to play. And I think a lot of people assume that I spent money, but I spent $40, but I think the progress that I have in my account doesn't really reflect on someone that, you typically imagine as free to play in the game. And so I'd love to showcase some of the champions that I have amassed throughout my 3.5 years of playing Raid Shadow Legends. And of course, first things first are the mythic goals. And I think this is probably an easy and big indicator of me just being of overall free to play. I have 5 mythicals on my account. Of course, 3 of them were free mythicals that you can get through the fusions or Cursed City, such as for Carnage, and Chimera for Embrius, right? So 3 of my 5 mythicals are obtainable by anybody. Crixia was the first mythical I pulled through Primal Shards, and the only mythical that I've pulled through Primal Shards. And Galathir was actually a fairly recent pull from Remnants, I think, a couple months ago. Or maybe just like 2 months ago. It's hard to say. Very, very new to my account. And so I would say I'm fairly unlucky. I've only pulled 1 mythical from Primals, and I think I'm getting close to number 2, but that's always hard to say with the whole mercy system of pulling champions. But I like to think that, anybody would see this and it's like, oh yeah, he has like no mythicals for someone who might have spent money in the game. So that might be an easy indicator. But yeah, let's walk through some of the legendaries that I have on my account, and let's talk about just kind of go from there. I think I'll start with the voids because I think that's wrong. I'll start with the voids because for me, I think this is where Plarium has completely blessed my account in the best way and has been the place where I think I've benefited the most in terms of both progression across my account as well as being able to just do very well in the arena. It's probably part of the reason why I can achieve a relatively high win rate in the arena across live arena, tag, classic, whatever you want to call it. And it's really the void shards that have kind of come in handy for me. I'll go back to the mythicals later, but in terms of my account, I have this many void champions. That's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. So 33 myth void legendaries in about 3.5 years of my playtime. And of course, a mix of them are free champions / fusions, right? Marius obviously being free, Titus being a fusion, Noel being a fusion, Mithrala being free, Yakarl being from fusion from the clan shop, Lamasu being free from the siege, Emek was free, Lydia was free, Supreme Elhain was a fusion champion, Leonardo was a guaranteed champion. We won't count him because you have to use shards to pull him. Visix was free, Uros was free, and Quintus was free. So a good amount, maybe like a third of these champions, I obtained from not pulling shards. But if you do look at the rest of my Void Mythics, I think I've been completely blessed by the game in terms of just the sheer void quality that I've gotten. And I know when I started playing the game, back in 2022, as I've been pulling throughout the years, the void pool was definitely a lot worse than it is today. And so I think some of the earliest void legendaries that I've attained on the account, I think Chogger was definitely one of the first few ones that I have attained. At the time, I was like, wow, I pulled one of the three void legendaries for Lizardman that wasn't Krisk or something, right? And I thought I was like, I thought I was so unlucky for pulling Chogger when I could have pulled the one right next to it, which was Krisk, which of course at the time was one of the best PvE champions in the game and still is, very capable as of today. But I think Chogor definitely helped me to push my account through some of the early wave-based content. And then it's hard for me to say what I got next, but I feel like I got Krisk relatively early too. I might even go to say that he was my second Void Legendary on my account, which of course at the time when I pulled him, I was still early into my progression, and of course he completely carried me forward from there. After that, I amassed some pretty good Void Legendaries. I got Sifi, I think another one of my earlier Void Legendaries. Um, and I think one of the biggest things to point out is there's really just not that many void legendaries on my account that are kind of sitting in the vault, right? Of course, I have pulled two spare Visix, which I don't use, or I don't even use the first one. Ursula, I got at a point which I used in Tag Arena for a while, or even just like live. I had some use for it until I realized that she just wasn't that good of a champion. So that's I have four void legendaries here that are just unleveled. Quintus I don't use at all, so that's five. Ursula I don't really use now anymore. This Visix I don't really use. This Shredder I don't use, right? Uros, these very, very brief moments in Curse City or Doom Tower. Supreme Elhain I don't use. Leorius I don't use. That was a little bit of a sad one. I got him at the time. He was like, wow, he's like going to be super cool nuker in the arena, and never really took off from there. And he's booked too, which is a little bit sad. But Emic, I don't really use, but everything else up here, I use a lot in the game. Some other notable things, I have a Senna on my account, which I'm super stoked about. I think I pulled 4 Void Shards on a random CVC when Senna was the progressive champion, and then I got her, and then of course Senna is an absolute monster at Chimera, which opened up a lot of things for me. In terms of the arena, of course, I pulled both Solinar as well as Neve, who are two of the best Void Legendary champions in the arena right now. Solinar, of course, being one of the more recent ones, but Neve, being out for quite a while. But I pulled both of them on the Void 2x with a 10x summon boost for their respective champions. That was something that was really lucky for me and definitely kicked off my account in terms of the arena. Solinar, I think, much more as of today. And then, of course, I have Queen of Hearts, which is fantastic. I pulled a Crizia back in the day, which did fairly well for me in PvE in terms like Hydra, things like that. But, Crizia has been fairly power crept over the years. Aelil, still one of my favorite nukers that I like to use in the arena. And yeah, that kind of ties things up from my voids. In terms of my just non-void legendaries, I think there's we'll try to point out a few things. Of course, I've done most of the fusions over the years. I've done the Maria fusion. I did the Fabian fusion. Walking Tomb Drang was a fusion. Mad Hatter was a fusion. Aislinn was free. Crocat was a fusion. Thor was a fusion. Free. Fusion, shard pool free, right? There's a lot of fusion champions out there, and I think that's one of the cool parts about Raid Shadow Legends in terms of having a pretty good free-to-play experience overall. And I think I've definitely, I've put in a lot of time and effort into the game, and I think it has been rewarding in the sense of progression, and of course it's something I find fun to do, right? Here I just want to talk more briefly about, I don't think there's anything particularly too exciting. It's just a whole page of legendaries. Of course, it's a bunch. When it comes to legendaries, of course, there's a whole mixed bag of things, whether it's like duplicates or just really bad legendaries overall. So you can see down here, I have a bunch of legendaries that are just sitting away in my vaults, but hey, they're filling up my Guardian factions slowly. Overall, I do want to talk about a few. I'll point out a few champions that I've really enjoyed and kind of talk through some of the builds. Now, the fastest champion that I have been able to actually build on my account is Sifi. So Sifi, I have gotten up as the fastest champion on my account, having a 6-star blessing, having a high base speed, having a speed relic, and my best speed gear on. I got her up to 452 speed, which was fairly good for me, and it won me most of my speed fights pre-Mercurial. Now, of course, Mercurial meta is in speed is a little bit weaker, and so I've shifted away some of my fastest speed gear off of her. But to my account, I was able to get a champion up to 452 speed, which I would say is fairly good in terms of actually wanting to try to win speed. And I think one of the cool things is, most of my speed gear or the fastest gear on my account has been gear that can't be bought, for example, right? I have Impulse as some of my fastest speed gear, which can only be obtained through Live Arena, and the rest of it is protection sets, right? Which is only obtainable through Hydra. So it's kind of cool to see where, of course, yes, if you are a whale or big spender in the game, you can buy like speed sets to try to roll them up into gear. I think that's a very, very low return on your investment if you do want to go that route. But you can still achieve pretty high speeds as a free to play. Of course, I do have a 6-star blessing and I do have a hollowed hill honor, which provides an additional 18 speed. But I don't have the additional speed coming in from faction guardians, and I don't have like a +4 Sifi, right? Give her a lot more speed as well. So still a lot of speed missing in terms of actually getting the fastest champion in the game. If I had everything, maybe I'd gain another 30 speed or so, right? And that would push me up to like 490, 480 speed. But overall for me at 452 speed being the fastest champion in on my account overall, I think did me very, very well. And so I was very happy with that. Next, I want to talk about my favorite champion on my account, and that would be, of course, Solinar. He's kind of plastered all through my YouTube channel, and even, he's still a very new champion, but he's just super fun to play around with in the arena, and he's definitely carried a lot of my arena content ever since I got him, which really honestly hasn't been that long. I'll be honest, if I didn't get Solinar, this channel probably wouldn't exist, which is there. I think there's a little bit of truth to that statement. And so I am indebted to Solinar a lot, and I love him so much as a champion. Next, I want to talk about my personal favorite build on any champion across my account, and that would be Carnage. Carnage, well, number one, he's just a super cool champ. Of course, he's the free mythical from the Cursed City. I'm still trying to get my 6-star on Carnage. That just goes to show the overall age of my account. I got him pretty slow after I got back, so I'm still trying to hunt for that 6-star blessing. But he's my favorite build on my account for one big reason, and that is because I was fortunate enough to obtain the Death Dealer relic. Of course, Death Dealer is a very nice relic for him. Being able to prevent any weak hits means that he will always land his debuffs, which is very, very nice. But it also allows me to have a really ridiculous build like this by sacrificing all my crit rate into other stats, right? I have 7k attack, I have 310 speed, I have 346% crit damage, all with almost 600 accuracy. And once I get my 6-star blessing on him, that's going to jump up another 20 speed up to 330 speed. So overall, it's just a fantastically cool build for this champion. And I do also have a stone skin plus a swift parry set, and I think one of the best banners on my account as well. Look at this banner. 400 attack, 35 speed on this banner. I am super proud of the build that I have on my Carnage. It's a shame that I can't figure out how to use him more in the arena, but I will have to look into that to see how I can utilize him a little bit more. The last thing I want to touch up on with just champions in particular is just talking a little bit about, the overall 6-star blessings that I have on my account, because that's really, I think, one of the big make or breaks in terms of being an F2P and trying to compete for, high spots within the arena. I was able to get a 6-star Lady Mikage, very luckily out of an Immortal Soulstone. That is the only 6-star mythical blessing that I have on my account that I can actually put on my mythical champions. Granted, I don't have that many. I do have a few more sitting in my my soul vault, but for mythical wise, that's the only one that I've been able to utilize on my account. Let's see, Ninja 6-star I've had to buy. I got like the 5-star from like that one champion training event all the way back, but I bought his 6-star soul. I bought Marius souls 1 through 6. I bought Sifi souls. I think I bought the 6th one. I'm not sure if I remember buying the 5th one. But I might have bought 5 to 6 stars for Sifi, so that's right. That's one champion for 6-star soul, 2, 3. I bought the 6-star for Fabian, so that's 4. And yeah, so I've only bought 4 6-star souls on my account. And that's being a very active player and playing a lot and, doing my Iron Twins mostly daily. And so I've only really amassed 4 6-star souls through purely buying the tokens and trading them in. Now I was able to actually pull some pretty nice 6-star souls through soul stones. I got a 6-star Jinwan, which is cool. I got a 6-star Maria, which I showcase in one of my videos for you guys, and I also pulled a 6-star Rhodos as well, which I'm trying him out in arena and really figuring out how I can get him in a little bit more. I also pulled a 6-star Trunda and a 6-star Walking Tomb Drain. Of course, I've had a bunch of other 6-star souls that I've either decided not to use for some of my champions and just sold them off for more stones. But those are the 6-star souls on my account. And then, I have a massive 5-star souls that I've gotten either through like hero events or, I've been slowly working up to them. So I've gotten like, I bought all my way up to a 5-star soul for Neve. I bought the 5th star for Queen of Hearts, and I'd love to get these guys to 6 stars as well. And I think I bought the 5 stars for my Krisk, I bought the 5 stars for my Krizia, and so yeah, there's always champions that I do want to buy more blessings on, but the income of soul coins are just so limited, and it's so important to actually, buy eternal soul stones so you can get souls for your mythics. For example, I'm still sitting on a 1-star for my Crixia. I'm still sitting on a 2-star for my Embrius, and I'd love a 6-star for my Galathir, but you just can't get these souls unless you buy soul stones, right? And I think that definitely has slowed down my overall sort of income of 6-star souls. I've definitely could have bought, more 6-star souls if I didn't buy so many eternal soul stones. But with the future of the game and more mythicals coming in, it's definitely more important to kind of prioritize those. All right, I said this last thing, but I do want to show off some of my relics. And I'm just going to go through the mythics because I think that's the one that everyone really cares about. If there you go. So I am lucky enough to have what is 6, 7, 9 mythical relics on my account. Now the unfortunate part is most of them are from the standard pool, so I do have 4 hilts and 2 hearts, and I've been able to utilize them quite effectively across my arena teams. The very cool one that I do have is the Death Dealer. I got that from Live Arena, and I have 2 Zibia's Servitude, which I'm still thinking about how I can utilize on my account. So even though I do have 9 mythical relics sitting on my account, 4 of them, I'm still thinking of how or where I want to put them, because it's one thing to have the mythical relic, it's another thing to spend the star stone to level them up, equip them on your champion, and then kind of just never want to take it off. And so it's hard for me to really put it on, commit a mythical relic onto a champion, because like, let's say, hey, I want to take this Volcardia card off my Galathir, right? Yeah, it's like, I think I'd rather equip a hill, 640 Starstone, and that's, a whole week of Chimera, essentially. So that's the state of my account in terms of my champions, my relics, and things like that. I think I've been fairly fortunate in terms of luck across the field. And coming back to the mythicals, even though I only have 2 mythicals that I've pulled from other sources, they have been, I would say, I think 2 of the top 5, maybe top 7 mythicals in the game for Arena. So I have been super blessed that the 2 mythicals, even though I only have 2, are some of the highest quality ones in the game. Now, let's move on past the champions and let's just talk a little bit more briefly about some of the accomplishments or achievements that I have been able to set. At least looking at my profile here, just in terms of some of the cool things that I have. CVC points, about 475k. Not super high. CVC isn't an area that I tend to index too deeply in. Ultra Nightmare, again, don't really care. Hydra, I hit a pretty high, almost 4 billion off of when I was actually manualing my Trunda teams, which super high, so to speak, but I think it was kind of nice. But nowadays, it's just way too much effort to have to manual Hydra. And yeah, Chimera, I got about 100 or 1.34 billion on my team, which was pretty cool because I don't actually have Wixwell on my account. If you guys remember, Wixwell was pretty much the last fusion that I missed before I came back. So I'm still chasing that Wixwell to pair with my Titus. And hopefully that's something I can achieve, this coming year. Anything else on this? I think, no, these badges nobody really cares about much, but I think one of the coolest things that I have been able to do on my free to play account was actually collect all of the champions for uh the the Ninja Turtles collaboration. I got all the champions, all the free ones. Of course, April, Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, Raphael were all guaranteed, quote unquote. Anybody could obtain them. But I was able to pull a Shredder through a random void shard, on the last few weeks of the event, and I was able to complete my full collection. Of course, Shredder himself isn't, that great of a champion, but with the completion of it, I got this cool badge, and then I also got a spare Zivia's Servitude as a gift for collecting all the champions. All right, so next I have some cool achievements on my account. I think in terms of being able to reach these milestones, especially for a free-to-play account, I think is an incredible showing, really. But most of these come in terms of the arena, which I think most people will recognize, and me too, as a very pay-to-win setting. But I have been very fortunate to be very lucky on my account in terms of the champions that I have pulled in order to assemble what is a very, very strong arena team. And of course, the gear on my account that I've racked up over the years has allowed me to, I think this is the highest placement that I've gone, but I got a number 36 in platinum, which I think is the highest that I've gotten. Yeah, the first big one I got, and 39 in platinum. Of course, there's only 500 people that can place in platinum, but the issue is there's not that big of a difference between 39 and 500 because the rewards are only split. It's top 3, top 20, top 500. So if you're between top 20 and top 500, you get the same rewards. So the only thing that comes with being a higher placement is just the flex of it. But I was able to place top 39, top 36, and I think consistently do that as long as I put in the time and effort to do so. I'm also fortunate that I'm on the west coast of the US, and so the reset time is convenient for myself. But a classic arena, I think is a little bit boring as of now. I put in my weeks where I really grinded it, and now I think it's getting a little bit boring with the very consistent teams that I'm seeing. Lastly, I do want to flex this one, which is the live arena, and is, I think, the game mode that I personally enjoy the most. And last season, I was able to place top 500, and I got rank 270 in terms of live arena. So in terms of the arena, I think I'd love to brag that I've been very successful in the arena, especially as a free-to-play player. As you can see here, I maintained a 75% win rate over what is 344 battles last season in order to get to my placing. And I want to say, it's very possible for free to play players to do so as long as they, of course, spend the time to learn the game, develop your champions and your gear. And, there's definitely some element of luck where it's important to have meta champions on your account. I won't say that I haven't been extraordinarily lucky in terms of the champions that I pulled, but it has allowed me to this state where now I want to try to return some of that in the form of making content for you guys and help you guys to upskill your arena needs. So I think that's like really the major big talking points in terms of my accomplishments. I'll quickly just showcase some of the teams that I run. So in terms of Chimera, this is the main team that I run, of course, showing off the Senna plus Crix, but I also still have like the Mikage Ninja Lydia, which is a very free aspect and very common sort of setup for most players who are trying to do trials. In terms of Hydra, my 3 teams that I have set up are here. So I do have a pseudo Trunda team set up with Trunda, um, Lamasu, what's his name, Glaciad, and some reset champions. My middle team is a classic sort of. I have both the Crocat plus Shayak as well as the Ninja Mikage combo, and then my last team is kind of just a hodgepodge of whatever, really. And then my Demon Lord team, although there really isn't much interesting going on here, but it's just the same format with a Cold Heart because of the random stupid defeat a, Demon Lord with a common champion. And we can just quickly run that. Oh, we had a random battle going on. But yeah, there's not too much to talk about in terms of my teams, and it's really just more so arena that I focus on. So it's kind of whatever. And of course, if I have something cool, I showcase like the 2-turn Sand Devil team that I have on my account, which I think is pretty cool. But in terms of goals and where I want my account to go in the next year, so I think one of the biggest stretches left for me to do is completing Faction Wars Hard. I have gone up to 904 stars. I'm on the final stretch here. I can see Polera in my sights. But the last 41 stars is going to be fairly difficult, I would say. It's one thing to kind of sit down and grind through them. It's another thing to actually have the right champions on your account to do so. I think if you asked me today if I had all the time in the world with my current count state, could I get Polera? The answer is still no, because I still have one faction left where I have not killed the final boss, and that is my Banner Lords. So hopefully in the next year or so, I can get some really good Banner Lord champions on my account in order to rack up more stars in this area, and we'll see how far I can get. But I have been able to get close, or I have finished the Skinwalker Crypt faction, I have finished the Demon Spawn faction, the High Elf faction, Sylvan Watcher faction, and the Sacred Order faction. So I've completed 5 factions in terms of getting the maximum of stars, and it's really just cleaning up the rest of things. I think Banner Lords right now for me is impossible to complete. Orcs, I think is Orcs and Ogrins are in the second and third worst spot, and I think everything else maybe just comes down to having the time to do it. Earlier this morning, I got 2 more stars for my Undead Horde crypt, and so I'm slowly making my way through Faction Wars Hard, and hopefully in the next year that's something that I can complete. But in terms of actually having content left in the game, I think this is just the big one that I haven't done yet. I've completed most of Cursed City Hard. Grim Forest Hard is very easy to do. And after that Faction Wars Hard, which I think is still going to take me most of the year, and hopefully it's something I'll complete by the next check-in that we have. But it is probably the last piece of content that is not PvP focused. And of course, throughout the next year, I'm super excited to see what kind of content Raid Shadow Legends is going to come out with that will continue to provide extra places for me to focus and improve my account. I mentioned this earlier, but still trying to hunt for that 6-star soul for that Carnage. I'm sitting on the 5th star, close to getting this final chest, another 20 next rotation, but I am been able to complete all the rotations, or at least in the past months. We'll see if there's any rotations going forward, and I don't think there will be that I won't be able to complete, but we'll take it as it goes. In terms of the fusion tokens, again, this is something that is kind of building up, but I do want to get a Wixel on my account, and I'm going to need 2 more fusion tokens in order to get there. That should be something that I am able to complete in the next year or so, and then I will have a nice Wixel Titus team to run for both my Chimera as well as my Hydra, provided that there isn't something better to be using in the next year or so. Another goal that I've kind of been wanting to build up for myself is to really just stock up some remnant summons for a really nice big video. right now I have 5 remnant summons kind of lined up, and for me there's really I looked at the mythical champion pool and I saw how few of the remaining mythicals, I have 2, but of how few of the mythicals on the list that I'd actually be happy with, maybe less than a third of the overall mythics. And I'm like, there's really no point pulling them now when maybe in the future, as they add more mythicals into the pool, and they'll likely be stronger than some of the old mythicals, or maybe some of the old mythicals get buffed. And there's more mythicals in the pool that I'm happy with pulling. I think it'd be, better to wait for them. But for now, I think I'm fine being patient. I think it'd be cool to have like a video where I pull 50 of them all at once. And, I'm almost guaranteed 2 mythicals in that video. So I think that would be a super, super hype video to have, especially as a free to play. So I think that's another goal that I'm kind of working on in the background. So if you guys ever see me pulling shards and then you guys, hey, that number is growing, that's what's going on in the background. Of course, still working on my awakenings across the board. For in terms of my arena champions, most of them are at 5 stars. In terms of awakenings, I'd love to get 6 stars for my mythicals, of course, but that's just through soul stones. I'd love to get a 6 star for my Neve as well as my Queen of Hearts. Alil's kind of another side option, but Alil might phase out a little bit with Mercurial. And another thing is just the overall state of my gear, especially with Mercurial. Mercurial dropped, was it late last year? It's so hard to keep track of time and how content has been coming out. But my best Mercurial set is on my Galathier, and that's about 369 speed. So looking back to that, I'd love to see how much better my Mercurial gear gets. And maybe there's another new gear set out there that gets released the next year, that now there's Stone Skin Mercurial and this new set that kind of mix things up again. So that's super exciting to think about. But right now, Mercurial is definitely king. Stone Skin's still very good. I use Stone Skin on the majority of my nukers, such as Marius, Carnage, Embrius, Solnar, but I could easily see in the future something like Mercurial sets being thrown on them, especially on things like Marius. That's something I want to do in the future. But we'll kind of have to wait and see, and we'll see the state of Mercurial in the future. But that's just really thinking about my account and the sort of historical snapshot and the nice sort of achievements that I've been able to set myself as a free-to-play player. In terms of the arena, maybe like a top 20 finish or a top 100 finish in the live arena is something that I might consider, but that's more so just a grind and putting the time in rather than I think I could achieve that this season if I wanted to, if I put in the time. But that's really talking through my account and some of my goals for next year. I'd love to see where I come back in a year and how far I get with that, and always continuing to think about content creation and what you guys want to see from my channel as well. So if you guys enjoyed this video and enjoy this little walkthrough in time with me together, let me guys know where you guys are at with your accounts, and if you guys are interested in contributing to just voicing out what kind of content you love to see on this channel or any content ideas going forward, I'd love to hear them. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll come back in a year and see how far we gone. So love you guys. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend, if I put this out on when I think I want to put it out. But have a nice rest of your day, and love you guys. Peace out. Take care.